This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Endodna Health.
Hey cannabis consumers, have you ever consumed a cannabis product thinking it'll make you feel a certain way, but then it doesn't? Don't you wish you had a clear understanding of your own DNA so that you could make informed decisions about what type of cannabis products interact best with your system? Well, now you can with Endodna. Endodna is a simple DNA test that maps your entire endocannabinoid system and then matches that summary with a specific cannabinoid ratio and terpene profile that best aligns with your unique genotype. Imagine being armed with personal information when visiting a dispensary. You'll have the knowledge and power and capability to purchase products that best align with your genotype. Visit their website to purchase the EndoDNA Collection Kit and Endo Decoded Report at endodna.com/products and use the promo code CONNECT15 for a 20% discount. Again, that's endodna.com/products and use the promo code CONNECT15 for a 20% discount. The future of cannabinoid therapeutics is here with EndoDNA. What's up, Matt?
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for making time for me today. How are you doing today?
All is well, can't complain. It's a beautiful day in New England.
Right on, man. Well, it's funny because before we started recording, we had a little laugh, and we're talking about how fast-paced the cannabis industry is, especially I would imagine the cannabis-infused beverage space, which LEVIA plays a part in, and we'll get to that. But how you kind of talked about how you serve as a ping pong right now. You're talking to these big operators, and then you're talking to elected officials and local municipalities. Like, what's that like, man? Tell us the world right now of the cannabis infused landscape.
I look at it just as a small business operator that as fast paced as the cannabis industry is, and it's super exciting to see what's happening, not just locally in Massachusetts, but nationally, and these new markets popping up. And really, it's like Prohibition 2.0, right? Like, we haven't seen anything like this since the repeal of the Volstead Act, and it's kind of amazing, right? You're on this very fast-paced innovation curve on one hand, and then at the same point, you're dealing with the fact that nothing happens quickly in this industry, right? I mean, I got involved in LEVIA in February of 2018, and we didn't make it to market till February of 2021. So it's like it's the power of two sides, right? It's super fast on one hand and also very slow on the other. And so you just have to be comfortable in kind of operating in the unknown, in the gray space of what's going on. So yes, the industry is evolving and changing at a rapid pace, and yet you're also dealing with the inertia of just small town politics and trying to get through the licensure process with a new government agency, which is run by the state. So everybody's learning as we go, and you just have to be malleable and transparent.
Yeah. What stuck out to me when you said, so you started with LEVIA in 2018, and then you guys went to market with a product, but 3 years later in 2021. So was all that time before just R&D and dialing it in? I mean, what did that process look like?
I wish I could say that it was all R&D. No, it was really the licensure process. And here in Massachusetts, the Cannabis Control Commission is our regulatory agency, and their process is very well defined in terms of dates and gates and kind of things you need to do in the process. And so it started for us. It was started in 2018. Took basically December of 18, we got what is called the host community agreement, which is the basically contract between our operating company and the municipality that we are housed in. We then had to go through much of 19 was the zoning and the planning to get our facility approved and then constructed. And at that point, you're sharing resources with a landlord and a developer, and just things take a while. I mean, we were 26 weeks to get through the planning board process. And then, late 2019, early 2020, we finally get under construction. We built our facility from the ground up, and then the pandemic started. So, everything just kind of took a while, and the way I kind of look back on it now is the realization that we were making progress every day, but it might be 3 or 4 months between like material wins and the highs of those wins, and being like, oh, we're one step closer, would have to carry you through the dark days of the uncertainty of truly being an entrepreneur and not knowing, one, if the concept would stick when and if you made it to market. And you're raising capital, you're getting told no a lot, and doors are being shut in your face, and all along you're just believing in yourself. So by the time we did make it to market in February of 2021, it's still a segment that's a little bit unknown. There have been participants out on the West Coast. We were the first ones to launch in Massachusetts. That was 9 months ago, almost to the day. We now have 5 competitors here in Mass. I mean, we still represent north of 70% of the market. So I think LEVIA is hands down the superior product, and I think we're the superior product in the nation. But it's a wild industry, and you have to be able to, I like to say, you have to ride the wave. You got good days and bad days. Some days you get pitted, and some days you get out of that tube. So it's a really fun and exciting growth market, and it ebbs and flows just like anything else.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to LEVIA's superior product, as you mentioned, and kind of the methodology behind, its delivery system and whatnot. But that 3-year span, going back to that, you talked about just the licensure, the whole process, how that took time. You want to talk specifically about regulatory challenges that you faced and things that, in hindsight, you wish were different, like laws that were put in place that actually made it easier for entrants.
Yeah, I think frankly the regulatory part of this, it's pretty well spelled out what you have to do. From a position of an operator, the state has timelines that they're very good about following. So it took us 3 years. It wasn't that it took 3 years to get the license. It took 3 years to do the whole process, right? So we didn't actually submit our application till, call it Q3 of 2019, and then Q3 of 2020, and then we were in market Q1 of 2021. So that process was relatively quick. We chose to do things probably in a different fashion than most. I mean, most people go and they get their provisional license and then they go build their business. We took the tact of, let's build the business and then go get the license. So we were building our facility. Obviously, you couldn't operate it without the license, but it was there were some areas in the legalese that we took a different interpretation, right? So the only piece that we were most concerned about is an architectural review process of our building. But if our building was completed, then that was considered a completed structure. There was no architectural review. If we had submitted our application with a new build, then the state would have had the ability to do an architectural review. That was the only place that didn't have a date or timeline connected to it, which to me, that's a tremendous risk. It's a new government agency. They're working their butts off to keep up with this wildly successful industry. But you want to make sure that they have a shot clock too. So we kind of did things a little bit differently than our competitors and other entrants into the market. And there's more than one way to skin a cat, really.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely, that's a great way to put it. And I mean, now that you've gone to market, you mentioned what you make up 70%, north of 70% of what Massachusetts' market when it comes to cannabis infused beverages. So let's talk a little bit about your sales and the products and the superior products that you offer.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a story of hustle. We launched, as I said, February 16th. So we're recording here. What is it? November 12th. So almost, as I said, almost 9 months to the day. We actually got our letter to commence operations on February 12th. And then there's a 72-hour hold before you can go. In our case, that 72 hours would have been February 15th. For those who look at the calendar, that's President's Day. Obviously, everything's shut down. So we launched on that Tuesday. And for us, we went to market. We had pre-sold the first 2 full batches of what we could produce. And obviously that was kind of like a rolling process of getting it out into market. We were in 35 dispensaries that very first week. We're now in over 120 dispensaries here in Massachusetts, and our products, we offer 3 kind of flagship seltzer products. We run things as an effects-based business because we truly believe that this industry, it's about the net effect and more than anything, right? So our sativa product is called Achieve, Get Stuff Done, Work or Play. That flavor is raspberry lime. Our flagship hybrid, we call it Celebrate, kind of the backyard barbecue alcohol replacement. That one's lemon lime. It's my personal favorite. And then our indica product we call Dream. It makes sense. Indica, that kind of classic couch lock feeling, relaxing, end of the day treat. It's a mixed berry that we call Jamberry. Subsequently, we've launched a tincture line. Each one of those tinctures similarly is branded Achieve, Celebrate, and Dream. And then just the last call it 3 months, we've done 2 seasonal releases, all using the hybrid Celebrate oil. Our fall seasonal, autumnal seasonal, if you will, was a cranberry lime flavor. Really quite nice, a little bit sweeter than the other products we had made. And just this week, actually, we launched our winter seasonal pomegranate punch. And if you remember the Hawaiian punch from our childhood, that super, super sweet, sugary drink.
Yeah.
Amazingly enough, that's what the flavor profile is, but it's 0 calorie and 0 sugar. So all of our products are 0 calorie, 0 sugar. And fast, predictable onset. We like to say that as a society, we know how to gather around drinks with an anticipated effect. I mean, that's the social norm. My joke is people call baseball the American pastime, and I laugh and say, no, it's actually going to the game and having a couple of beers with your friends. The baseball game's actually relatively boring. Similarly, that's why we think cannabis beverages are the future, is that it's a universal delivery system that we all understand. And when you can create an onset that is quick and it's repeatable and the feeling is consistent and the taste is good, you have a product that will continue to bring net new entrants into this space. And that's really our goal. The social experience of taking an edible, for instance, it's not really an experience. You eat a gummy, you chew it for 15 seconds, you swallow it, and then you just wait 45 minutes or so, and then you start to feel the effect.
Or you wait 20 minutes, then you eat more, and then you eat more because you don't think that it's kicking in, and then it does.
And then you see the boogeyman, right? Yeah, like everyone's had that experience. And that's why we believe, like in this case, it's a sessionable concept. If I drink one of our seltzers, as I'm drinking it, you're starting to notice the effects. So you can really pace yourself and dose yourself really in a way that's more familiar. And there's that social part of it, right? Like you go to a party, you carry a drink around, like it's in a lot of ways, we've built it as a security blanket in our society. And now you give somebody that opportunity to do the exact same. They hold that can, they're having a conversation, you get a little bit of an awkward silence, you take a sip, it's built into our culture. And our take on it is, look, this is, it's no different than other things that people consume in a social setting. It's just a different active ingredient. And for some subset of the population, it's a better choice.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. First off, the security blanket messaging, positioning, I think, and intention, I think is right on, because I mean, I even remember growing up, like being in high school, and some tactics that I guess teachers would employ on students and kind of talk to them is if they're in party settings and they're not comfortable, they don't want to drink, right? Because obviously they're underage, to carry around like a cup with water or something, just to kind of show that, you're part of the dialogue or part of the party. So I see where that would work, because there's a lot of people that are at parties that usually go outside to go smoke a joint because they don't drink, right? And allowing them to have that opportunity through a beverage would be, I guess, a good option.
Right. I look at it as twofold. One, smoking's obtrusive, right? Everyone around you knows when you light up. It smells. You're not going to smoke a joint inside someone's home. You got to go outside. You extricate yourself from the social setting, and then you come in and everyone's like, "Oh man, that guy smells like a skunk," and that's fine, and people do that. Our take on it is, look, it's twofold. right now, fine, some people do that, that's cool. I'd rather carry around a can and still be part of the setting and part of the conversation rather than having to remove myself. Secondarily, smoking is like, so here we are in Massachusetts. I was born and raised here. I don't really recall smoking sections in restaurants or smoking in public really being a thing. I mean, it was around and it basically got removed in the early 90s. We're never ripping that Band-Aid off. So the idea of like, as cannabis becomes more and more mainstream and we pull it out of the shadows, well, smoking is never going to come in vogue in terms of public settings. It was our estimation.
You even think with the rumblings in New York City of like consumption lounges and whatnot, like you don't think those will take off or have traction?
So I don't know enough about New York State law, or I mean, I know there are a few like cigar bars and things in Manhattan and whatnot. There's one left in Boston. There's one cigar bar left in Boston. So to me, yeah, maybe that's a case, but the reality is and what we built our business plan on is at some point in the future, and everyone asks me this question, when do we get some sort of federal deregulation? And I say, you know what, I don't have a crystal ball. Washington has a few other things to contend with right now. I don't think cannabis is going to be the first thing on the docket. That said, there will be a date in the future where cannabis-infused beverages will be on the draft line of every pub in America. That's my estimation, and that's what I'm playing for, is the future of, hey, look, I go out to dinner with friends and you got a group of 6 people, maybe 2 of them don't drink alcohol for whatever their reason. Maybe they had issues with it in the past, or maybe it's just a health choice, but they want something to kind of relax with. Well, this is a perfect alternative for some semblance of that or subset of the community. And why wouldn't you be able to have this on the draft line, right? Like it's no different than the 5 beers that maybe they offer at that restaurant, a couple domestics, a couple local, and a cannabis infused product. Like that to me is what the future looks like.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's going to happen at the state level, right? Because no one can predict the federal legalization. One thing that I do think is, before I would have agreed with you in that it's not kind of top of mind for these federal officials. But now that Representative Nancy Mace has proposed her bill, so we've got the Democrats who have been talking about the CAOA, and then now with the States Reform Act being presented, both parties are really using cannabis, it seems like, as a political, kind of signal in the midterms here coming up.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's posturing for the midterms, right?
Right. Yeah.
And not to go far down the political rabbit hole, because I like to say I'm agnostic to it, that we're just fortunate to be able to operate. I look at it as the Democrats right now have the controlling voice in this legalization front. However, that's not going to last forever. And if the GOP is able to create something and get some momentum, that becomes the pulpit for which they run and win on the midterm, right? So it's again, here I am in Massachusetts, where political opinions don't matter. We all know which way the state's going. So it's to me, it's more that conversation of the Democrats right now have the lead, I would say, in terms of getting some sort of federal deregulation and federal policy figured out. But if they can't get out of their own way, which the inertia of Washington is the inertia of Washington, the GOP will have a chance to come forward. And really that would be a way for them to take a ton of gains, both in the House and potentially in the Senate, because people want this to happen. Yep. I had this conversation actually with my mother, and what I said was, you know what, this is an industry whose time has come. The prohibition of this industry was based on complete propaganda, nothing backed by science. And here we are watching as more and more markets come and more tax receipts are made, and the government is able to use those to fund programs that they otherwise wouldn't be able to. That's all good. These products aren't causing any harm. We're not getting like crazy arrest rates going through the roof. Actually, the opposite is true. So let's do this, and let's do it right, and let's actually use this industry both in a a government affairs sense and in a CPG sense to create an industry based on good and use it as the blueprint for future innovation. I'd love to see that happen in the near term. Again, I'm a little bit of a pessimist in terms of how quickly anything's going to happen on the political front, but that's what we would hope to see in the future.
No, I'm with you. I couldn't have said better myself, man. I totally agree. And just curious, what did your mom say when you told her that?
Look, my mom is a huge proponent of what we're doing and absolutely agrees. Kind of difference of opinion, just that she doesn't necessarily agree that this is going to get done and in the near term either. So,
Right.
it's we're both on the same side of the ticket, right? I mean, full disclosure, she's one of my earliest partners in this project, so she's
That's
on the
awesome.
bus as well.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. That's cool. So another thing you said outside of the politics realm, going back to the product here, and you talked about your effects based and the products you mentioned, Achieve, Celebrate, Dream, and then some of the other seasonals. Is that a challenge in terms of like message positioning? Have you seen any challenges there?
So in the case of we don't make any health claims, right? So my regulator is the Cannabis Control Commission of Massachusetts. We have to have all of our branding, all of our can designs we're approved to them by them before we went to market. By calling it Achieve is just a tag word. It's just the same idea of like, I have a polar seltzer next to me. It's the polar, right? Like it's no big deal. That is our sativa line of products, and Achieve is just the brand name. So no issues there. And the reason we did this effects based branding is very much to simplify things for the folks that we believe these products are built for, the canna curious, right? Like the novice consumer. It's an easy entrance into this space where it is a familiar format. But I like to say, look, I've worked in this industry for 4 years. If you start going through strain names with me, my eyes will cross and I'll be confused in 3 seconds, because one person's GG4 is somebody else's Purple Kush that, like, right? Like these names they're not tied to anything. Again, as I said at the jump,
Yeah.
I tell the same stories over and over again. And my joke with strain name games is it's the same as the guy who has the best job in the world, which is the Crayola Crambox naming those colors. Like they're not tied to anything. It's creative and it's something different and whatnot. But when you look at that for the novice consumer, it's super confusing.
Yeah.
And our goal was to simplify that. So, hey, you buy the Achieve Seltzer. Yes, it is a sativa strain, but you're going to have a consistent product time and time again. Our Celebrate products, our hybrid line, like it's going to be the same time and time again. And that indica product, the Dream, it's going to be the same time and time again. If I branded these with what the underlying genetics were and what the flower name was, most consumers would have no idea what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really it was simplification for the sake of, as this industry continues to evolve and becomes more of a mainstream CPG product and less a fringe cannabis product, you want to have something that is very, very easy for mainstream consumers to understand. And that's why we did it. And I think that's the truth of what we're realizing, is that people are very happy that we pulled out the hard part to understand, which is the strain name game, which is tied to nothing. We gave them very simple brand archetypes, which are repeatable, and the effects are repeatable.
Got you. Well, let's move on and talk about consolidation. We're seeing it happen and play out all throughout the cannabis industry right now. I mean, what is LEVIA's plans in terms of M&A action? I mean, are y'all looking to be acquired at some point? Like, what are the plans for the future?
Oh, I mean, we're recording here in November. On September 3rd, we announced the signing of a definitive agreement to sell the business to Air Wellness, which is one of, in my estimation, it's probably the top 3 MSOs. I think the management team's the best in the game. They're currently in, I believe,
John Sanderman and Sandelman.
Yeah, Mr. Sandelman is the chairman. One of the most brilliant people I've ever had the privilege of meeting. John and I first started talking probably back in May and putting this deal together. So we as an organization are super excited to get this transaction blessed by the state of Massachusetts and close hopefully sometime soon, and really join that team and that growth engine, because what they're doing over there in terms of national expansion is incredible. And for us to join them as one of their kind of core brands will be really exciting, because we'll be able to expand nationally and really bring the beverage segment to as many households as possible. So that's the route we chose to go. So keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully we can get this deal closed in the not too distant future, and we'll jump on the air wellness mega ship and take this thing off.
Man, yeah. No, I apologize. I missed that news. I didn't hear that, but that's huge, man. That's awesome. So hopefully that the deal gets done. And yeah, because I mean, the resources and reach that Air Wellness has as of now, just only the possibilities are endless, basically, right? So
Yeah, it truly is endless, and we like to say that we've never had leverage, right? Like we raised this round and we built this building and we went to market with very few dollars left, and it was, the product has taken on a life of its own, and from the time we launched in February to when we're recording now, I mean, we're the number one selling product in the nation in the category for the month of August. So that's really quite spectacular, and we're only sold in Massachusetts. So it's going to be fun now to get into the two other markets and continue to grow the brand and the segment.
that's awesome. Well, Matt, as we wrap up here, man, I want to give you the floor. Is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with before we go?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, for me, it's I like to tell people, like, if you've never tried one of these products, whether it's LEVIA or not, depending on what market you're in, give the beverage segment a chance. Whether if you're a legacy consumer and you're saying that the dosages are too low or whatnot, it's meant to be that sessionable social experience. I think innovation's the key to the cannabis industry, and I'm really excited about future products. And we talk about this effects-based brand, but as secondary cannabinoids become more and more mainstream, I think from our side, you're going to start to see us focus really on products that are tied to kind of isolated ailments, whether it be a sleep aid or something that's an appetite suppressant, or something that actually activates your appetite. We also that's the kind of stuff that we look at towards the future, and it's going to be very exciting as we innovate and create new products.
Yeah. Like we said before, the possibilities are endless. It's exciting time to be in the space, and really appreciate your time and for sharing your insights, Matt. Where can people find y'all's website and social media if they want to learn more about LEVIA?
Absolutely. Our website is levia.buzz. If you're in the Massachusetts market and you want to find us at a store, the best way to do it is levia.buzz/find. Then you put in your zip code, and it's going to tell you all of the dispensaries within whatever your geographic radius is, and you'll be able to find our products there. On all social channels, it's at LEVIA Brands. And honestly, yeah, that's us in a nutshell. We're just I like to say we're the little engine that could, and it's a team that's more of a family than anything else.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you guys expand throughout the nation, and look forward to having you on in the future, Matt. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. And thank you for listening. Bye.